7 dark fantasy horror stories that will haunt your dreams. The veil between our world and the next is thin tonight, my friends. Join me as I dive into 7 dark fantasy horror stories that are so creepy I'm daring myself to not get spooked out. There's something undeniably alluring about dark fantasy horror stories. They tantalize our deepest fears, whispering dark secrets in our ears and beckoning us to step into the shadows. And yet, despite the terror they evoke, we can't help but be drawn to them like moths to a flame. So turn off the lights, grab your courage, and prepare to enter a world where nightmares lurk around every corner. These are the stories that will haunt your waking hours and follow you into your dreams. Are you brave enough to face them? A group of friends, young and foolhardy, decided to tempt fate. They ventured deep into the woods, a place locals whispered held ancient, malevolent secrets. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. The sun, a pale ghost behind the dense canopy, did little to pierce the oppressive gloom that settled over them like a shroud. They pressed on, their laughter fading with each step, replaced by a creeping unease. Then the whispers began. At first, mere rustlings in the undergrowth, easily dismissed as the wind playing tricks on their frayed nerves. But the whispers grew louder, evolving into guttural murmurs, cold breath on the backs of their necks. They were being watched, stalked by something unseen, something hungry. A presence that slithered through the trees, its eyes 2 glowing embers in the gathering darkness. One of the most chilling moments in these stories is the reveal of the supernatural entity in the forest of whispers. It's a moment that will leave you breathless, wondering how something so terrifying could be lurking in the shadows. They say every toy holds a sliver of the creator's soul. In the case of the old Dollmaker, his creations became vessels for something far more sinister. His dolls, once cherished playthings, now sat on dusty shelves, their painted eyes reflecting a malevolent glee. You see, the Dollmaker had a score to settle, a wrong left unrighted, and he would use his creations, his cursed progeny, to enact his revenge. Each stitch, each strand of hair, each button eye was imbued with a fragment of his rage. The dolls became instruments of terror, their porcelain faces contorted into grotesque mockeries of life. They moved with an uncanny life of their own, their tiny limbs animated by an unseen force. They were coming, seeking out the descendants of the ones who had wronged him, their laughter echoing in the night, a chilling prelude to their terrifying revenge. The bayou, a place of eerie beauty and unsettling stillness, held secrets best left undisturbed. Beneath the surface of its murky water, amongst the tangled roots and moss-draped cypress trees, lurked something ancient and evil. It was a shadow, a whisper of darkness that clung to the edges of perception, a creeping dread that seeped into your very bones. Folks told tales of those foolish enough to venture into the swamp alone at night, their screams swallowed by the suffocating darkness. They spoke of a presence, vast and malevolent, that stirred in the depths, drawn to the scent of fear, and they whispered of the shadow, a formless entity that hunted beneath the surface, its touch icy cold, its grip inescapable. The swamp held its secrets close, but its victims, or what was left of them, spoke volumes of the horrors that awaited within its depths. Chapter 4. The Portrait of Doom. The painting, a once prized family heirloom, now hung heavy with dread in the dimly lit hallway. It depicted a stern-faced patriarch, his eyes seeming to follow your every move, his lips curled into a subtle sneer. What was once a symbol of lineage and pride had become an object of fear, a harbinger of misfortune. For the portrait held a dark secret. It was said to be cursed, a conduit to something sinister that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. With each passing day, the painting changed subtly, almost imperceptibly. The eyes gleamed a little brighter, the sneer deepened, and the shadows around the figure seemed to writhe and twist. The family, once dismissive of the tales, now lived in fear, prisoners in their own home, haunted by the malevolent gaze of the portrait that held them captive. Chapter 5. The Curse of the Haunted Mansion. On a windswept moor, shrouded in perpetual mist, stood Blackwood Manor. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out blindly, reflecting the desolate landscape. Locals told tales of a family driven mad by grief, of unspeakable acts committed within its walls, and of a curse that lingered long after the last inhabitants had breathed their last. Now the mansion stood empty, a decaying monument to its tragic past. But it was far from uninhabited. Restless spirits, driven by anger and sorrow, roamed the darkened hallways, their mournful cries echoing through the empty rooms. They were trapped, bound to the house by their pain, seeking solace or perhaps revenge. Another shocking moment is the climactic final confrontation in The Curse of the Haunted Mansion. I won't give it away, but let's just say it's not for the faint of heart. Chapter 6. The Secret of the Asylum. Cragmore Asylum. Even its name sent shivers down the spines of those who dared speak it. Abandoned for decades, it stood on the outskirts of town, a crumbling testament to the horrors that unfolded within its walls. The stories were legendary, whispered in hushed tones. Tales of inhumane experiments, of patients driven to madness, of screams that echoed through the night. One group of friends, their curiosity outweighing their better judgment, decided to explore the abandoned asylum. Armed with flashlights and a healthy dose of bravado, they stepped across the threshold, unaware of the darkness that awaited them. The air inside was heavy with the weight of suffering, the stench of decay clinging to their clothes like a shroud. And as they ventured deeper into the asylum's bowels, they began to realize that some places are better left undisturbed. Chapter 7. The Ghosts of Blackwood House. The old house stood at the end of a long winding drive, its once grand facade now weathered and worn. It had seen better days, as had its current occupants, the Blackwood family. They had inherited the house, along with a legacy of sorrow and secrets they were ill-prepared to handle. The house was a vessel, its very foundations steeped in tragedy. The walls whispered of heartbreak, of lives cut short, of a darkness that permeated every inch of its being. The Blackwoods soon learned that they were not alone. Something else shared their home, something ancient and malevolent. Footsteps echoed in the dead of night, disembodied whispers sent chills down their spines, and cold spots clung to them like icy fingers. The ghosts of Blackwood House were restless, their anger palpable, their sorrow suffocating. They were trapped, bound to the house by their pain, and they would not rest until they had dragged the Blackwoods down with them. The shadows grow long, my friends, and our time here is coming to an end. But fear not, the stories, like nightmares, linger long after the telling. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the heart of darkness. If you enjoyed these dark fantasy horror stories, be sure to comment below with your favourite tale and check out more of my animated horror content. Remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create in our minds, so sleep tight and sweet dreams. Or try to, anyway.